to A Day in Her Life podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Rinnick, and I am fascinated by how other women get their days done. When I started this podcast, I set out a wide and frankly aspirational net to see if women would be interested in being a guest on the podcast. I have been so overwhelmed by the positive responses to date, and I'm still somewhat surprised when people say yes. But when I tell you that I did a fist pump when Caroline Chambers said yes, I am not joking. I have been a longtime follower, subscriber, and raving fan of her recipes, and they are many of the favorites that I mentioned in last week's mini episode about food. I am so excited to have her on today's episode. Today, Caroline Chambers, chef, recipe developer, author of the What to Cook's Substack, and mom to 3 active boys, joins me to talk about her days. Caro shares her morning routine of a workout and a walk, the importance of hiring people that treat your home and kids the way that you do, and outsourcing the cleaning so she can be more productive in the ways that count. We also chat about the smutty fantasy books that we're reading and how, in this phase of life, happy endings and escapism is what we're in need of instead of the latest Pulitzer Prize winner. Caro shares how she and her husband, also an entrepreneur, completely separate from their work between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m., making those chaotic hours a lot less stressful and sometimes enjoyable. They also regularly do alone days to allow each other time to recharge in the way that they need it best. A huge thank you to Caro for being a guest on today's episode. This was such a fun conversation, and I know you're going to love it. If you like what you hear, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, share with your friends, and leave us a review. I have a ton of fun guests lined up for the fall, and I would love to hear from you on Instagram at A Day in Her Life Pod or on the website at adayinherlife.com. All right, let's have some fun. Welcome to A Day in Her Life podcast. Today, Caro Chambers is joining me to talk about a day in her life. Hi, Caroline.
Hello. I'm so glad to be here.
Do you go by Caro or Caroline mostly? I realize
I go by both. My friends and family call me Caro, and so I'm Caro, and you are my friend now, so I'm Caro.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. How's your day going so far?
It's going well. I've gotten, 20% of the day that we're going to talk about is already over. And now we're having a break in the typical day. And it's going really well, though. Had a nice walk with the baby and happy to be talking to you.
Awesome. So why don't we set the scene? So can you fill us in on who you are, where you live, what your family looks like, what you do, all those things?
Yes. So I'm Caroline Chambers, Caro, and I live in Carmel Valley, California. That's Monterey County, California, 2 hours south of San Francisco on the coast. I typically live in Carmel Valley, I should say. Right now we are renovating our first home that we've ever owned and renovated, my husband and I. So we're living down in Pebble Beach, California, which is just a coast town in Monterey County between Carmel and Monterey. We're living here for the summer beside some of our really good friends. So it's been a fun renovation journey. We were like, if we're going to renovate and have to be out of our house, we should stay somewhere at least that we're having a lot of fun and enjoying ourselves. So we really loved this little beach house that we're in. But I'm a professional recipe developer, professional cook, mom of 3, cookbook author. I share a lot of recipes on Instagram, recipes and just motherhood blips of my life on Instagram. And then sort of my main work that I do is I have a newsletter, a Substack called What to Cook When You Don't Feel Like Cooking. And it's a weekly new recipe that takes under an hour to cook, minimal ingredients, as few dirty dishes as possible. They're family friendly, simple, but beautiful, hopefully restaurant worthy recipes.
And I was telling Caro right before we got started that I have been a longtime follower and am a subscriber. And what I didn't tell you is, ironically, my girl chat last night, someone texted me. I was like, "Does anyone have the recipe for the new small tomato pasta that Caroline Chambers posted?" And I was like, "Funny you should ask. I have a free gift subscription."
Yes.
And I sent her my free gift subscription yesterday night.
That makes me so happy. Thank you, my evangelist. My followers are my PR girls. I've never done any PR or promotion of any kind for What to Cook. And it is all just word of mouth. People like you sharing those subscriptions, forwarding emails around. So thank you. Thank you for doing that.
The recipes speak for themselves. I was also telling the shrimp roll is a current big favorite in our household.
It's like main every day in your kitchen.
Always.
You actually are in Boston, so you're like, yeah, it's not too far.
Well, it's easier. The shrimp roll is always something I have on hand, or like frozen shrimp is something I always have on hand, whereas I'm not going to go buy lobster to make a weeknight dinner.
Who's going to do that? Yeah, you frozen shrimp in the freezer, always. You got to always have them there. They take 2 seconds to defrost. Perfect.
Costco, man.
Costco, baby.
All right, so let's go through a day in your life. If you wouldn't mind filling us in on how your morning starts, what it looks like, what time you get up, and then how you get to the kind of next part of your day.
Sure. I was saying before this recording started, I think this is such a smart concept for a podcast, because when I meet moms at the park or I meet a new friend at a party, she works, she doesn't work, like whatever it is, I want to know what her day looks like so badly. Like, what are you doing that's making, things tick for you? Okay, you have 4 kids. How is that even possible? So I'm very glad. I don't know if I'm doing anything even remotely right, but I'm glad to share how I get through the day. So here it is. We have 3 boys. I don't think I said that before. We have a 4.5-year-old Mattis, an almost 3-year-old Callum, and an almost 1-year-old Cashel. And so there's 3 of them. And that means that there's a lot of different sleeping patterns going on under this house. So every single morning looks a little bit different, because we never know who is going to have slept through the night. Right now, Callum, our middle, is our, let's say, for lack of better words, our problem child in the sleep department. There's like some night terror action going on, some like, need you, dada, mama. Like, it's 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Sometimes he goes straight back to sleep. Sometimes he's up for 2 hours. Last night he was up from 1 to 3, and I was with him, begging him to go to sleep, and he was not. So I'm going to preface that because the mornings look a little bit different based on basically whether we've been up with a child or not, who drew the short straw and had to be up with Callum from 1 to 3. So last night it was me. So I did not wake up at 6 and work out. However, what I've been trying to do, for probably 5 months now, is wake up at 6 and go get a workout in. So walking is a really big part of my life. We'll get to that later. It's like a big part of what I do in my day, but like an actual strength workout has been my, I don't know, sort of resolution, or like, I've just had 3 babies, right? Cash was my last pregnancy, and I got like rocked by that pregnancy. And I had, what's the thing where your pelvis hurts all the time? SPD or something?
Yes.
I had it.
Pubic symphysis.
There it is. Oh, like even like PTSD, even thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I like couldn't walk. I couldn't exercise. I couldn't do anything from like 5 months on. So I lost like every ounce of strength in my body. And so I told myself, once probably 6 months postpartum or something, I was like, I got this. Like, I am ready to feel strong again after having 3 babies. So that's a big part of my daily schedule now. So 6 a.m., I try to wake up and do like a 45-minute strength class on Peloton. Jess Sims is my favorite for all the Peloton girls out there. I try to do at least 45 minutes. Sometimes I'll do like a 30-minute plus a 15, whatever. But try to do that. And that gets me to like 6:45, when the first kid typically starts to wake up. My husband, luckily, the luckiest thing that's ever happened to me, I now know because of my friends who have to drop their kids off at work every day. His office is, he passes their school on his way to work. So he does drop off and pick up, which is, I know from when he's out of town, or when he has an early morning meeting, trying to do drop-off with 3 kids, like, is truly a harrowing, life-altering, years off my life experience. So recognize my privilege that George does drop off. So I work out. Sometimes George works out too. We have like a little home gym situation in this rental house that we're in, which we're going to need to copy up at our old new house because it's so much easier than having to go to the gym and come back and yada yada in the morning. So I work out. It's like 7-ish now. We are on the go breakfast people. So my kids don't like eggs and bacon and pancakes and all the things. We don't like it. So George and I don't really eat breakfast. I know that our kids are supposed to eat breakfast, but they don't. They don't want to. So we're like, I try to make like a healthy muffin situation. Go Nanas is this like healthy muffin brand. It's like oat muffins that I make. I'm like looking at them on the kitchen counter right now. I make those like every 3 days because the kids eat like 2 or 3 a morning. So they will eat that in the car on the way to work with George. So we basically wake up, throw clothes on them, and get them out the door as fast as possible. They can be at school. I think they can be at school as early as 7:30. We have like, it's like a real school, like a full-time, for 9 to 5 working parents type of school. So I think they can be there as early as 7:30. We typically don't get there until 8 or 8:30. So Madison, Callum, the biggest and middleest, go away with George. And then I have Cash. And what I try to do with Cash is get him fed and out the door because he is a baby. So, of course, he likes a gigantic breakfast. He wants like scrambled eggs and he wants like 15 pounds of fruit and he wants a muffin. And he's, I don't know if you have experienced this with your 2 children, but my 11-month-old eats like, I don't know, let's say 40 times as much as my 5-year-old.
So much more. So much more.
Absurd. I'm like, what happened? What happened here?
And you have a dog because like, thank goodness for dogs when it comes to feeding babies.
I'm also looking at his high chair right now, which like, I mean, it's a foul situation, but thank God for Hooper because he cleans up 80% of the mess. He picks and chooses.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So Cash is basically like being fed things all while the big boys are getting dressed. Big boys get out the door. I kiss them goodbye. Let's say always by 8 a.m. And then Cash and I hit the road as soon as we can. So we go on like a 4 or 5 mile, depending on his mood, walk every morning. And so I try to leave like 7:45, 8 at the latest so that we can get that in before his first nap of the day. So he's 11 months old, so he's still napping twice. I think I'm losing it soon, but he's still napping twice right now. So he typically wants to go down by like 9, 10, somewhere in there. So we hoof it. I almost always can get 5 miles in, and then I come back, immediately put him down for a nap, and that is when my work day begins. So I don't even I used to, when I had just a Mattis, maybe Mattis and Callum, I used to just like kind of always have my laptop out and be like answering emails and, trying to like really quickly edit a video or whatever during the morning stuff when they were still awake and around. And what I find when I try to work when the kids are there is that everybody just ends up frustrated. Like they're frustrated because they want my attention. I'm frustrated because I can't give them attention. I end up feeling like a real shit mom because I'm not giving them the attention they deserve. Like everybody just feels shitty when I try to work while they're awake. And that's not to say it never happens. Of course it does. Like I'm a mom trying to work with a baby from home, but I've gotten a lot better at separating church and state and just being like, these are working hours, these are baby hours. So that's why that morning is now just a dedicated walk. It used to be like this trying to like shoot a video while Cash was still awake, and now it is a walk with Cash. Like I don't even try to do work until he's down for that first nap. So 9:30 he goes down. I start my work day. What I typically try to do if I have to film that day, so if I'm filming a cooking video or if I'm in the kitchen, I should say, if I'm filming a cooking video or if I'm testing a recipe, that's when I'm doing it from like 9:30 to, he's a really good napper. So from 9:30 to 12 or whatever, 2.5 hours I've got. I'm in the kitchen, I'm testing, I'm on my computer editing the recipe, like things that I simply cannot do because my brain has to be fully in them happen while Cash is asleep. during that first nap. And then I have a rotating cast of people who help me run and organize my life who come around noon. So on Mondays and Thursdays, my wonderful friend and accomplice Hema comes, and Hema not only whips my house into shape, organizes laundry, cleans the whole place, but she also will help with cash. So, or not will help with cash. That's a part of what, I hired her and we agreed upon. And so she is housekeeper extraordinaire and also cash wrangler. So one of my big I don't know, tenets of life as a working mom is hiring people who will treat your house like you would treat your house. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't afford for somebody to come over who isn't also willing to help with a baby or isn't also willing to open a package for me because I need it to be opened and put out. When I hire people to help run our life, I'm like, I need a second wife. I need a second husband. I need another family member who is down to do everything. So my housekeeper also watches my kids. Our nanny sitter also helps clean and do laundry and organize and all of that. So every day of the week, I have somebody who is here who does it all. Kids, cleaning, everything. It's just whether their expertise is one or the other. So Monday and Thursday, Hema comes and her expertise is cleaning, but she also watches cash. Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Tanya comes, our fabulous nanny sitter, and her expertise is children, and she also does the laundry, and she helps me clean. Basically, everyone helps me clean the kitchen. So I do the dirtying. I get in there and I dirty it up, testing recipes, filming videos. And then they get there at noon. Cash wakes up at noon and I depart. And that's when I go do my computer work, recording podcasts or really editing nitty gritty recipes or writing what to cook, the weekly what to cook recipe, or communicating with brands, communicating with my brand manager, partnership stuff, sponsorship stuff. That all happens from 12 to 5. So from 12 to 5 every day. Typically, it's very in flux because when you have 3 children, everything is always in flux, right? From 12 to 5 every day, I have a helping hand of some kind. So I can step away. When we live up in the valley where we normally live, we are members of a pool. It's a pool and golf club, but we are not members of the golf side, but there's a golf house that I hope no one who is a member hears this because I don't think it's allowed. I treat it as my WeWork. And so I go and there's this part that's a conference room kind of, and I go from 12 to 5 every single day and I set up camp, whether it's with 50 cookbooks around me if I need cookbook inspiration or whatever it may be, I go there and work from 12 to 5. This house where we're renting is 30 minutes from there, so it doesn't make sense, but I have a little bit more room to spread out. So the sitter will take Cash on a long walk. That's my ideal scenario, is for the sitter to get the baby out of the house. Cash is just getting to the age where he's fun to take to kid zones and parks. Mm-hmm. He's still crawling, so parks aren't that fun yet, but the beach is great with a baby and it's less than half a mile away. So anyway, Cash basically disappears for a couple of hours. And then he'll nap again. And during that nap time, whoever is there that day will do the laundry, organize the kids' crazy drawers that have gotten disorganized, whatever. I mention that just because I'll get this DM, and I think this is probably why, the premise of this podcast and why I create it. I get a lot of DMs that are whenever they see the baby with me during the workday, people are how do you get it all done? You work from home with the baby, gosh, you have so much to do. And I'm I don't do it all. No, the nanny will be here in 5 minutes. Or they see our Stokey high chair. I get this question every time his high chair is in the background of a picture and it looks clean. 20 people are how is his high chair so clean? What's your trick? And I'm I have help. I have so much help. And if that sounds privileged, I hope it doesn't. I mean, it is, whatever. but it is what I have to do to get through the day. Like if I was going to an office, I would have, an assistant or this team. And I basically, this is my office. And so I have these people who come in and are my team. And that allows me to be a working mom who gets to have touch points of workingness and momness all day long. So I don't go to an office away from my kids. Some many days I wish that was what I was doing because this is so complicated. But I love that at least for those first 2 years of my kid's life, I am getting to be home and like present, but I have a lot of help to allow that to happen, and to still be able to get the work done that I need to get done. So 12 to 5 are my like crush work, get it done. So basically I work 9 to 5, but just with like some interruptions of like switching, passing the baton to a nanny or whatever. The big boys, George picks the big boys up. Our nanny or whoever is watching, whoever is with Cash that day will put together whatever kid dinner I've planned if we're not having a family dinner. So like frozen meatballs with broccoli from Trader Joe's or a quesadilla with a little salad. We do a lot of simple kid dinners. We are just not at a phase yet where eating family dinner together every night is like fun or happening. I really like eating dinner with just George, frankly, and like eating whatever we want to eat and it being like a recipe that I'm testing or something more adult leaning that the kids just aren't going to eat. So we eat a lot after they've gone to bed. But basically the kids get home at 5. Yeah, 5, the big boys. And I want to just like hang with them. So I don't want to be cooking dinner and cleaning dinner. So we try to have dinner ready, just like ready for them. We all sit down together, but George and I just kind of eat, we're like, we'll just kind of pretend to be eating something or like have a couple crackers so that it feels like we're all in it together. And then my favorite thing, which is new down in Pebble Beach, because we're on flatland up at our house, we're on a hill, so we can't really like ride our bikes and scoot as easily, but is doing like a nighttime scooter ride or bike ride or walk. And if we can make it down to the beach without like a meltdown, we'll make it down to the beach. But even better is just like doing some loops through these streets around our house. And we like meet new neighbors. Last night we met this neighbor who has like this really cool old car, and we chat with people, and we do that from like 5:45 to 6:45. I like to get home, whether it's in the summer and we're getting home from the pool or like it's just after the scooter ride. I like to get home as like close to bedtime as humanly possible. George is always like, "Oh, babe, like we gotta get home. We gotta get home. It's like the kids' bedtime is so close." And I'm like, "No, trust me. Like we just need to get home and throw them into bed because I feel like when between dinner and bedtime is when the shit just like comes off the wheels." So is that how I think about? And like everybody's yelling, and we're also on like a major digital detox after when I was writing I wrote a cookbook over the summer, and I mean, all the help in the world couldn't have been enough help this summer. And so the kids ended up watching a lot of TV. And then so it becomes their norm, right? I don't know if you've gone through those phases where you just need the extra digital babysitter. And so then they're constantly expecting it. And so we went full cold turkey, like no TV. We told them it was broken, no TV for 3 weeks. And now we're at a place where they're not asking for it anymore. So anyway, there's no TV at night. We are outside. We're doing fun things. You're probably wondering, when do your children take a bath? And the answer is like never. I don't know. Once a week they get like dunked in a bath, and they've turned out quite fine. So that takes it through our day. And then I like it. One of us can put all 3 down now because Cash goes down. Cash is the baby. He goes down a little earlier. And then you just read books to the 2 big ones, plop them in their beds. Callum, if he napped at school, he gets up 45 times and comes out. But he is so freaking cute. And we're so obsessed with him that he just basically will be out here cooking dinner, and he just comes and sits with us most nights until like 9 o'clock. Like he'll be up and down and up and down and up and down. But
That nap transition is so hard because
oh,
you know that sometimes they need it, but you don't want them to take it.
no, like I don't even know. And they're gonna make him take a nap in school for 2 more years. Like it'll be 2 more years of this.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's brutal, honestly. And he didn't nap at all summer, and it was great. He was going to bed like he was lights out 7:15. And now that he's back in school and they have the mandatory nap, it's like a California thing. I think there's like a mandatory nap time.
That sounds very California.
Doesn't it? Doesn't it? So many great things, so many hard things. Yeah, mandatory nap time. So Callum's up and down. We eat dinner. Callum usually has like a full second dinner with us. And then we go to bed. I often will also take, if I am not having to cook dinner, I'll often take a post bedtime little stroll by myself. Again, that's because at this house we live so close to the ocean, like the most beautiful craggy rock, just picturesque, like Big Little Lies ocean views you've ever seen. So I often will take like a little 2 mile, 3 mile walk after bedtime from like 7 to 8. That's been a thing since we moved down here that I'm like really obsessed with. And then I come back, I'm home by 8. We eat something simple for dinner, probably something that I've tested earlier in the day. So it's already ready. I'm just reheating it. And then George and I are both entrepreneurs. And as you've heard, my day is not a full 8 hours of work. So typically we're both having to squeeze in some more hours of work before bedtime. So yeah, when people are like, how do you get it all done in a day? I'm like, because the whole day is my work day. Basically, like from 7 a.m. to midnight is my work day. And I just try to plop in kids as much as I can throughout that work day. And that's how I get it all done. It's like not a fluid, it's not a one sit down, like flow state, crush it all day at all. Because for me in this phase of life with my kids as young as they are, I am having to just like plop them into my day as much as I can. And that means working really late hours a lot. And that's okay. It's a time of life.
And what time do you typically end up going to bed, would you say?
We try to be asleep, both of us, by 11, but usually it's like 12:30. We are late to bed people, and we have both tried to change that. And what we've realized, because we do better with more sleep, everybody does, but what we've realized is that if we are trying to get to bed earlier, that means that we're trying to get our work done during those like from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. hours, which are really the only good hours that we hang out with our big kids because they're in school all day. And so if we are trying to get to bed earlier, we'll have our laptops open during those hours and we're not paying attention to them and we're not actually hanging out. And that felt shittier than being sleepy does.
Going to bed later. Yeah.
So, yeah. So for us, we are definitely sacrificing sleep right now.
It's a phase. I feel like I've always reassured myself, it's just a phase.
This too shall pass. Like we are sleepy. We definitely average like 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. That's the best we're getting right now. And it's okay. Like we are surviving. We catch up on the weekends. Luckily we do have really good, they all like to sleep in, especially Callum when he's had his like up hanging out for 2 hours in the middle of the night. They do like to sleep in. So on the weekends, they sleep until like 7:38, and so we all sleep. That's why we like don't do anything on the weekend because we're like, no, we can't go out with those people. We have to be asleep by 11 o'clock. Like we have to catch up on our sleep for the week.
So you mentioned that you structure your like kitchen time in the 9 to 12 phase and the more computer stuff in the 12 to 5 window. Is there any other structure you typically add to your day or your organization that for your work when you're on, if you will?
Well, let's think about that. So the morning kitchen stuff is definitely very based around when I have somebody to help me clean. So I have hired people who I've kind of outsourced the cleaning part of my job. So when I first started in the like recipe testing world, you spend half of your day
Cleaning.
cleaning the kitchen because that's your job is to dirty up the kitchen. So you spend half the day cleaning it. And I basically realized that to make more money and to be more efficient, I can bring somebody else in to help with that. So that's why that happens. I dirty it up from 9 to noon. Somebody else comes in and cleans it from noon on. Other things that I do in the day, I, I'm trying to think if I have really any other like work structure. I try to get my exercise finished by like, I don't know, 10 a.m. every morning. So getting up and getting that 6 a.m. like strength part of my workout in is huge. If I don't get up because Callum kept me up for 3 hours or whatever, I then have to fit it in during Cash's first nap of the day, which then like seriously takes away from my productivity for the rest of the day. So yeah, it's really motivating to get it in, to wake up and do it at 6 a.m. because I know my productivity is just going to be shot for the rest of the day if I don't do it. And I'm at a point now where they say it takes like 16 days to build a habit. Like if I don't get my strength workout in, I'm like, like I can't not do it, which is the first time, honestly, I think in my life that I've ever felt that way about working out. Like I've always had friends who are like, oh, I've got to get my run in. Like I go crazy if I don't do it. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Just don't do it. And I am at a point with exercise where I actually feel that way. And it feels very good to feel that way. But no, I don't think I really have any other ways that I structure my work. Oh, one thing that I'm trying to get better about is batch creating all of my sponsored content. So sponsored content is a big piece of my, earnings, how I make money as a content creator. And so I'm trying to like film all of it at once. So do my hair. I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I'm very typically showing up for my sponsor content, like looking nice at all. But I'm trying to have one day where I like, somewhat do my hair, makeup, look presentable, and just like change outfits 5 times, film all 5 of the things. Cause those all sponsor content is a much bigger lift than it looks like. It's not just like, love this cottage cheese, so good. Here's 10% off discount code. It has to follow a specific brief. You have to like read the brief, know the brief. Often you have to tell the brand exactly what you're going to talk about before you even film it. You then have to put the captions on, save it, send it to the brand, get approvals on it. Often they have edits on it, so you have to do the edits. It's like this huge lift, and that's not even including like negotiating the contract, yada, yada, yada. So those are a lot of work. I have an assistant who helps me and a brand manager who help me get all of that done. But just the filming part, following the brief, making sure you talk about all the things that need to be talked about is a lot. So I'm trying to get better about doing that during when I have a sitter, 12 to 5 chunks, the light is good, all the things. Just filming like 5 of them all at once. That is definitely makes my week so much more productive than having to like film one every single day and be like, oh shit, I need to film that. Oh, I'm sweaty after a workout. Oh no, okay, now I have to shower. Da, da, da. Getting them all done. Batch creating content. Yeah.
In terms of recipe creation, where do you find your inspiration?
Great question. Kind of, it depends. Like this summer, we're really close to the Carmel by the Sea Farmers Market. I'm actually going to go after we get off the phone. And I've been going almost every single Thursday. And that's where I get a lot of my inspiration. So the tiny tomato pasta that we were talking about earlier, I literally went and there were like the most beautiful tiny tomatoes. And I was like, oh, I've got to make like a really simple pasta using those. I go and I see like the zucchini and eggplant and all of the things. And I'm like, okay, that's what has to happen this week. this week I think is going to be a zucchini and eggplant situation because I got this really gorgeous eggplant last week. So yeah, a lot of it's like seasonality. You'll definitely notice if you're
Definitely in your newsletter.
yeah, if you're a subscriber, like we definitely cook with the seasons. And that's just such a fun way to cook. It's fun, it's more nutritious. Like your food literally has more nutrients in it if it's actually been cooked or been grown like in the sun close to you, close to where you live. So it's more delicious, more nutritious, and gives you a way to like, always be changing what you're eating. So that tons of Southern inspiration in my cooking. I'm from North Carolina. My mom was an incredible cook, just a great home cook. And she taught me how to cook. So there's a ton of Southern inspiration in my food. I like Southern Californian is like kind of like lightened up Southern fare. I like, take a pound of butter out of some of my mom's old recipes and, kind of freshen it up a little bit. And then I read cookbooks constantly. There's like stacks of cookbooks all over my house. So I'm constantly getting new techniques from other recipe developers and other cooks, other chefs.
You mentioned your walks, and that sounds like a lot, and your workouts are kind of big things that you do for yourself. What else do you do for yourself in a given day?
In a given day, that's about it. That's about all we can cram in. George also like gets to the gym every single day. That's kind of like our self-care situation. I also I do a morning and a nighttime skin routine, which is a new thing for me and I think that like in the past 2 years, and it takes like 10 minutes and it's kind of like a calm down before bed. I listen to my audiobook and I like do a full like 6-step face routine. So between my walks and that's pretty much the only thing I can squeeze in on the daily. But on the weekly, George and I both we call them alone days, and we try to do one like at least every 2 weeks or so. And we call it an alone day, but it's really like an alone 5 hours. And one of us will take either Saturday or Sunday morning and just like disappear the second the kids are up. They've been kind of fed. The morning has like chilled out a little bit after the initial wake up. One of us will just get to disappear for like 5 hours until like after lunch. So I typically I said we go to this pool up in Carmel Valley. I'll go up to the pool. I'll work out. There's a gym there. I'll work out or go on a hike. There's amazing hiking trails, like right from there. I'll work out or go on a hike and then just sit by the pool with my book for like 4 hours. And like a lot of my friends are like, oh, like I want to come. Let me come to your alone day. And I'm like, that, my friend, is not an alone day. I really I'm an introverted extrovert. So super extroverted. I love meeting people. I love talking with people, but I like have to have a full battery reboot recharge like at least once a week. And for me, that my favorite thing is alone time in public. So I'm not like I have friends who with their alone time, all they want to do is like sit in bed and like watch Netflix. That doesn't do it for me. That's like suffocating to me. I'm like, get me the fuck out of this house. Am I allowed to say fuck on this podcast? Like, get me the heck out of this house. So I like to go, maybe I'll go to like a favorite coffee shop. I love this coffee shop, Alta in Monterey. I love this restaurant, Stationery in Carmel by the Sea. So I'll hit one of those, get a nice meal, and then like disappear by the pool for 4 hours with my book, not talk to a single person. If I run into a friend and they're like, let me come sit with you, I'm like, this is the worst case scenario. This is literally the worst thing that could have happened today. Like, I want to be alone, alone, alone. I don't want anyone to talk to me. I don't want anyone to ask me a question. Like, don't touch me, don't hug me, no nothing. And then come back and we're like recharged. We're like the best parents on the face of the planet because we have allowed ourselves that recharge time. So one of us, we switch off with those. George hunts. That's his version of being totally alone. He likes to be alone in the woods. That's what he likes to do. So he will go like have hunting days and I will have alone days. And that's how we recharge.
That sounds delightful. I can also relate to wanting to be alone in public. Like reading a book at a
Yes.
bar or like
Oh,
reading a book in a coffee shop is my jam.
nothing better. Like
Yes.
reading a book by myself with like some French fries and a margarita is,
Yep.
I don't know.
Checking all the boxes.
Have I peaked? Like that's the best thing. That's what I like to do.
You mentioned audiobooks and reading. I get a lot of book and story recommendations from your Instagram. What
Oh,
are you
good.
reading right now?
I'm reading this idiotic book, which I do a lot about. It's called, let's find it. It's called Consider Me by Becca Mack. And I'm really sorry, Becca Mack. I hope you don't listen to this podcast, but I really like good books. I really like literary fiction. I think I spent my teens and my 20s reading only like literary fiction that was like top of the New York Times bestseller list, winning all the awards, and I genuinely love it. I still do. But I found that in this phase of life, I need a complete mental escape, and reading like the latest Pulitzer isn't escaping me. Like I don't want to have to think. I don't want to feel stressed out by what I'm reading. I
Mm-hmm.
want to feel just like good, happy vibes. So I read just a ton of romance books and like fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
like A Court of Thorns and
Yep.
Roses is like my peak
I
series.
just
Like, yes.
downloaded them again to
Oh,
re-listen because
I'm so jealous.
I just
I think
made
it's
my
time.
neighbor
Mhm.
listen to them for the first time, and I was like, "You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it." And she wasn't getting as into it, and I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna reread them because I'm gonna prove to myself that they are so
That I'm
good."
not wrong. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, is there anything worse than telling somebody they're going to love a book that you loved and they don't love it? And you're like, what is wrong with you?
I just saw that the next Crescent City comes out in like
Yes.
in like just about a month, and I am so excited.
So excited for that mashup of both worlds.
I
Ugh, we
can't wait.
won't spoil. This is now a spoiler alert podcast. So yeah, I love a fantasy. I'm glad you do too. I've said this on my Instagram many times. Fantasy is basically just any time that the world is not like the current world. So Harry Potter is the most typical example of a fantasy book. Like it's a different world, there's different rules, there's different like there's magic. And so I never thought, like when people
Me
were like,
neither.
"Oh, I love fantasy," I was like, "Oh God, weird. Like you're a nerd. Okay, Dungeons and Dragons, enjoy yourself." Like, no, if you liked Harry Potter, there are so many more fantasy books that you will love out there, especially if you are a fan of the romance genre. There are so many fantasy books that have like romance interwoven in them, but they're not just like, your boy meets girl, they get in a fight, they resolve it, typical romance, like, I don't know,
I
trope.
can't imagine what goes on in the writers of fantasy worlds
I
because how do you come up with
I
all of
know.
this stuff? Like Sarah J. Maas, she's created
No,
like three
she's
different worlds:
yes,
Throne
she's
of
a spooky
Glass,
genius.
ACOTAR. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, we need to get her on this podcast and figure out what she does in a day.
I'm not gonna lie, I did look up how to contact her. So I'm
Good.
like
Please, I need to know what her day looks like and where she's getting her inspiration. So yeah, right now I'm listening to a book called Consider Me. It's like a hockey. There's apparently hockey is the largest subsect, like growing subsect of romance. So I thought,
oh.
okay, I'll give it a shot. Hockey,
Have you
sure.
read The Mile High? Is that what they're called? Or like
No, but are those hockey?
yes, and it's the Raptors. I read them this year. Let me find them.
Okay.
I also read a lot of romance because my mind cannot with
Escapism.
that's all I need.
Ultimate escapism. Yes, like
And
I want to get out of my like poop covered, potty talk world and be transported, and that's where I go.
it is Mile High by Liz Tomford. And
Oh,
it's
my list.
yeah, it's a good one. And
Okay,
there's a
thank
series. So
you.
there's 2 or 3 of them already.
On my
I love
list.
a good series too. I just read the
Ah,
first 2, Beautiful Bastard from
oh,
Christina Lauren. Those
just
are lots of peppers.
oh, Lord of mercy. Those are spicy, spicy. Yes, that whole series is so good. You're in for a
Yeah.
treat.
But yes, I also listen to a lot of audiobooks and I love kind of that always having something in my ear is something that I
Yes.
like to do a lot. Like if I'm cooking in the kitchen or walking or whatever, there has to be something going on in my
I
head.
think audiobooks are my biggest productivity hack.
Yes.
Like, I don't mind cleaning. I don't mind cooking.
Laundry. I'll
Laundry,
do
forget
anything.
it. Done.
Yeah.
But the biggest one is exercise, honestly. Like, people are like, how do you walk so much? Why do you walk so much? I'm like, because I have a good book and I need to listen to it.
Exactly.
That's how.
Yeah.
5 miles, that's an hour and 15 minutes of my book. Like,
And when
I
you're
got
reading
to
at 2 speed,
go.
that's 2
And when
hours
you're
worth of
reading
your
at 2 speed, yeah, exactly. My sister and I share the same. You would appreciate our Audible account as well. We share an Audible account, we share a Libby account, and we read all the same books. And she the other day messaged me and was like, "Oh my god, my book just accidentally was on 1 speed. How do people listen to books this
I
slow?"
don't know.
When you're like a 1.5er, listening to 1 speed they sound like they're walking through mud.
I can't listen to it, but it's such an annoyance to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I actually had to divorce myself from my parents' Kindle account because I wanted Kindle
Oh,
Unlimited, and I just like
mm-mm.
couldn't be using my mom's Kindle Unlimited anymore.
Nope. Yeah, that's so funny. My biggest audiobook hack is so Libby is the app that a lot of public
Hmm.
libraries use, and you can connect several library cards all to your one Libby account.
Yep.
So
I have
get
three.
all of your friends in different cities, your friends, your cousins,
Oh,
Libby or library cards, and you can connect them all, and whichever library has the
that's
shortest wait
first.
list
Yeah.
is the one that you'll get it. So I have like Houston, Austin, Winston-Salem, Carmel Valley, and Carmel by the Sea. And I mean, I am stacked. I've got so many books coming in all the time. I'm not paying for any audibles these days.
Same. I use three. I
It's
have three
huge.
different library. I have my Rhode Island, Boston,
Oh,
and my local one,
nice.
and so I'm always getting the new ones in.
Yes, it's the best.
Speaking of romance novels, how do
Yeah.
you make time for your relationship with George in a day or week?
So we have a weekly standing, not really standing date night. We switch up which night it is, but we go out at least once a week. And my favorite date night is a one where we walk to the restaurant and then like have a nice night and then walk home. And I find that it like allows us to chat and like really get into it so much more than just like driving to the restaurant, sitting down, having the meal, driving home. There's something about like, I don't know, when you're on a walk with a girlfriend, like there's nothing else to do except for chat. And so there's like, it's just like really good uninterrupted time. So that, again, up in the valley, we live kind of in the country, so we can't walk anywhere. So here in Pebble Beach, that's been our date night, is always walking to a restaurant, and it's just like so nice and lovely. Yeah, so we go out at least once a week, and then I don't know, just always making an effort to like be the one who's trying to initiate sex and not just constantly saying no to him. That has been a big change in our
I think
dynamic.
you just posted that today.
I did. It honestly is like the biggest game changer is if you are finding yourself constantly, your husband, your spouse, whoever is constantly coming on to you and you're like, no, I'm too tired right now. Like, no, the kids have me in a bad mood. No, I've got too much work to do. Then change the tides and become the one who is always the initiator. So when it does work for you, always initiate. I don't know if anyone else is in the same boat, but there's literally not a single time when my husband would ever say no. So he like always wants to be initiated. So changing who the initiator is in our relationship has been like the best thing for our sex life.
Love that. And then how do you make time for friends during the week?
That's a great question. Short answer is I don't. I think right now I'm honestly in a phase of life where I am like, there's so little time in the day between work, kids, and trying to maintain a healthy relationship with my husband that my friends really took the back burner. I have really amazing friends in North Carolina, really amazing friends in San Francisco. And so and awesome friends here too. who I see, twice a week. We do a lot of stuff on the weekends. I think I see people who like do a lot of things on weeknights, and I'm just not in that phase of life. Like I have 3 kids. We both have full-time jobs. That just doesn't make us feel our best when we're trying to make weekday plans because it just stresses us out so much. So we're total weekend warriors. We either go up and see friends in San Francisco, they come down and see us, or we spend our weekends seeing our local friends. We go to the pool with people. We go to the river with people. We love having people over for dinner. That's like definitely our favorite way to hang out with friends. Is just have like a shitload of families and their kids over for dinner. But I remember like on a Ask Me Anything on Instagram a year or so ago or something, somebody was like, if you had to do a pie chart of your like priorities like in the week, like where are friends, kids, family, work, whatever. And my friend chart was like this big, which is absurd because my friends, like if you follow me on Instagram, like I am obsessed with my friends. I really do see them. I see them a lot, but it's really concentrated to like the weekends. They're not like if you said like how do they fit into your day? Like they don't fit into my day. They are like shoved into the weekends. I chat with them all day. I text with my sister and like my 3 groups of girlfriends like all day long, but I'm seeing people rarely. And then I have a group of 3 girlfriends, my salad club friends, who I see once a week for lunch. And we all work. So it's like a 1 hour, really quick. We trade off who hosts. And it's like a 1 hour hangout, efficient. And we like get it all in. And we literally only see each other once a week. And it's perfect.
That seems like such a good idea. I wish my close friends lived a little closer so we could do that every week.
That's why it works because we all like with me being down in Pebble, it's like totally fallen apart this summer. We've only done it like once a month, but we all live within like a mile of each other up in Carmel Valley. So it's like quick, we're all there. Like there's no drive. Yeah, so nice.
What is a ball that you are intentionally letting drop in this phase of life? Is it friends? Is it friends?
Other than my friends. Let's think about that. I think an answer that it is intentional. Well, I was just talking to my friend. One of my best girlfriends is also from North Carolina, also lives out here. She lives in San Francisco, and she has 1 kid, and so she is still constantly going back to North Carolina. She goes back for birthdays and every single wedding, every single bachelorette party, engagement party. She is back constantly, and she wants to be. Like she loves our family. She loves her family back there. She loves our friends. She wants to be there for everything. And I see her doing that, and I'm like, what am I like? Damn, like I want to be with my family all the time. I want to be seeing our friends that much. And she helped remind me of this, like flying across the country with 1 kid is a whole lot different than flying across the country with 3 kids who are under the age of 5. And again, like this is a phase of life. This is the stage of life that I'm in right now. It just doesn't make sense for us to get home for every single birthday, every single event. It's impossible. Flying across the country with my 3 kids is honestly like a trip to hell and back. I don't know, it's the worst thing that you could ever force upon yourself. Like it's actual hell, and it's about to be more hellacious because Cashel is about to be like next flight we get on. He's probably going to be, actually no, we're flying next month. We're going back to North Carolina, and he'll be 1. So it'll be hard, but he won't be walking yet. Once they start walking, but they still suck at walking, that's when it's really bad.
Yeah. Like Hazel is 18 months, and we had
18 months.
We had 4 flights in 3 weeks, and she was brutal. And I just tried strapping her into the carrier, and like she's just like kicking and screaming at one point.
She's like, no, I'm an adult now, Mom. Like I'm not going to be strapped to your body. Yeah. Who do you think I am? Yeah. The 18 months on a plane is, I think, as bad as it gets. So so like soon we're going to be there. So we're not going to come out of this phase anytime soon. But I think when we do, that's a really important ball for me to pick back up, is being home for my parents' birthdays and making my family, showing my family that they're the priority that they are. Because right now it's a lot of me begging my mom and dad to come out here, and not a lot of me showing up for them on their turf. And that is a shitty feeling, but it's just literally impossible. Living across the country from your family is tough, and with little kids.
Mm-hmm. You've talked a lot about having a third kid and raising your third like your first, or first like your third. How has your life changed from going from 2 to 3? What has been the biggest difference in your life?
Oh, man. 0 to 1 was my hardest transition by far. Like, no contest. I was rocked by having my first kid. Like, I did not know how much your life changes. I never could have imagined how hard it would be, the postpartum anxiety that I would feel.
Yeah.
None of it. It was all unprecedented and like truly rocked my world. 1 to 2 was a dream. Callum was an absolutely dreamy baby. Retro, looking back, I'm like, was Mattis actually a dreamy baby? And I just was such an undreamy mommy that I like don't even know it. I think honestly, yeah, I think probably a lot of first babies are a lot easier than we give them credit for, because we are the hard ones. We, the mothers, are figuring it out, and it's so difficult. So 1 to 2 was an super easy transition for me. Not only easy, like joyous, like joyful. Like I was like, I am getting this second lease. I'm doing this thing that I was so excited about, and then wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And so the second time through, I knew if he sleeps really well this night and really bad the next night, it doesn't fucking matter. I knew if he wakes up 5 times in the night and the book says he should only be waking up 2, it does not matter. Like, he can nap whenever he wants. He can nap it on me. He can nap in the carrier. None of it matters. None of it matters. And like, there's all these books and internet people who try to tell you how much it matters, and it legitimately just doesn't. Like, if you don't want them to nap in their crib for the first year of their life, like whatever, they'll figure it out later. So anyway, figuring that out was just like so incredible with Callum. I felt no stress. I truly felt no stress about anything, just like pure joy. 2 to 3. And it was also lovely because George could take Mattis, the biggest, and just go and disappear. And I could have this time with the baby. 2 to 3 was harder for sure. I still felt that joy with Cash. I still do to this day. Like, I'm so deeply obsessed with that baby because I get to enjoy his baby moments and not feel any of the stress that I did, and just like lap it all up. And if he's like fussy one day, I'm not like stressing out, Googling things, texting the pediatrician, because I'm like, tomorrow is a new day. Tomorrow's going to be different. And it always is. 2 to 3 was harder because you now have a situation where you're outnumbered. And everyone says that, oh, you're switching from, what is it, zone defense to whatever the fuck people always say. You're switching from man-to-man to zone defense. And you're like, okay, sure. It's quite true, actually, especially when I think they're all this little, so they all need a buddy. Suddenly, George my husband is being constantly expected to take the older two at the beginning. Wow, because you're busy, you're breastfeeding or you're bottle feeding, and you're really busy, you're really hands-on with that third baby, every baby at the beginning, and he is like overstimulated. Like, he gets home from, basically, like, he would get home from having them at the park or the pool or whatever, and he'd be like, whoa, okay, your turn. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? I've been literally, this baby's mouth has been on my nipples for 20 hours straight. Like, no, it's your turn. And they're like, no, it's your turn. Wait, what? And nobody ever gets a break. Nobody ever gets a break when there's 3. Whereas with 2, like, it's still easy for one parent to take both kids and the other to get a little break. With 3, that break doesn't happen until like, let's say 5-6 months, and then it genuinely can happen again. Like, but you got to get to that 5-month mark where the baby isn't just like constantly attached to a source of nutrients. And then once the baby can like be happy and be away from their nutrient source, whether that's a mom or a bottle or whatever, and like not just be in that like touch or go phase. Like, when they're little, you're like, are they going to cry? Are they not going to cry? What's the deal? What's your deal right now? And then when they get older, you kind of just know how to keep them happy. You can throw a snack at them. You can put them in the carrier. You just know how to keep them happy. And anyway, now life feels easy and good again. And genuinely, we've got this. It's all balanced. We're okay. But the first few months with the third are whoo, shit, we're really outnumbered.
I love that. And Carol, what is your favorite part of your day?
Probably my walks. My most feel good time is my walk with Cassie in the morning. The boys have gotten off to school. Our mornings with the boys, now that I'm not trying to make them breakfast and then fighting with them over not eating their breakfast, they just don't like breakfast. And so now that we've figured that out, we spend the mornings hanging out. We have a little dance party. We do things that are fun and enjoyable. Sometimes we go for a scooter ride, depending on how early they got up. The mornings are lovely with my big boys now. We get some genuine good time together. And then Cash and I take off and go on this nice walk together. We chat the whole time. He's in that super chatty, phase of babyhood. We chat. It's a gorgeous, absurdly pretty walk. I feel grateful for where I live, grateful for my family. So that time is awesome. And then our nights are really awesome now too. I think for a while, Mattis and Callum were just the Bickersons, and they were just fighting nonstop after school. And at the after school until bed was just this horrible time where they were fighting. George and I were trying to finish our work. Now we close our computers. We don't even try to get any work done. I said this already, but totally separating work and kids has been such a huge transition for us. I think during COVID, everything lockdown, everything got so jumbled. You had to work while the kids were around. So really separating this two, the laptop closes, the phone goes away. There's no work happening when the kids are here, has been so huge. So that 5 to 8 time is really fun now. I cook a dinner that I generally know they're going to like, so that we're not fighting over meals and finishing your dinner. I don't pressure them to finish it anymore. I'm done with that. If they don't eat it, I'm okay, that's fine. The plate stays out until they go to bed, so they can always come back and eat more if they want to later. But we genuinely do not fight them into eating it anymore, which is so lovely.
Yeah.
And then we have this hour to do something fun together. We scoot, we go on a bike ride, we play in the backyard, we play, I don't know, we do magnetiles. We just have fun at night now versus it being this rat race to bedtime. So yeah, my walks and then those last couple hours of the day with the boys.
That sounds so special. My son is a huge scooter rider, and we usually do a little walk in the morning around our neighborhood. And when it's not too hot, because it gets super disgusting here. But I just love watching him scoot on his scooter and this look of joy. And Hazel's trying now, and Foster's so fast, so he's gone in a second. But Hazel's just maybe 10 feet every minute. And so
he's going to be so good, so young. Callum was ripping on his scooter by 20 months old because
she at 16 months she was on a scooter and moving in some direction, and Foster could barely figure out his head from his rear at that point.
Yes, barely walking. There's something about that second kid.
It's so funny how they pick up on everything.
Yes. The unbridled joy I feel watching my kids be good at scooting and biking is I feel like a stage mom. I'm sick trick that is. And he's picking a hand up in the air.
When Foster learned how to ride a bike, I didn't get him one with training wheels. I was he doesn't need that. And so my husband was you're insane. And I was Tim, watch and learn. And 2 days later, he's just taken off down the bike path. And I'm just I started crying as we're walking.
My husband
was are you all right? And I was he's just so grown up.
He's so, watching your kid on a big boy bike.
Oh, it's so.
I mean, I'll literally be if we pass people on the street, I'm did you see that kid? You see, he's only 4. He's only 4.
Exactly.
I'm a total stage mom about anything to do with my kids and wheels. I'm he's only 2. You see how fast he's going on that scooter? 2 years old. So bad.
And pretty soon you'll have all three doing it because probably Cashel will be doing it even earlier than Callum.
Cash will be up there any second now. He'll scoot before he walks.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Carol, where can people follow along and learn more about you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm at Caro Chambers on Instagram. And then the best place to find my recipes and my endless ramblings about life as they relate to those recipes is at whattocook.substack.com. That's my weekly recipe newsletter.
And I will say that it is a huge value add to my daily life. As I was telling you, we have a ton of your recipes on our family favorites. The sheet pan fajitas are another huge hit in our household.
That one. Yes. Well, spoiler alert, there's a really good chicken sheet pan fajitas recipe coming in the cookbook, which you can get next August.
I will pre-order that well in advance.
Thank you. Please do. Please do.
And I love that you always put like substitutions and stuff. A friend of mine has a daughter with celiac. And so I was like, you should follow Caro Chambers because she always has different substitutions.
Yes. Gluten-free, dairy-free, vegetarian every single time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast, Caroline. It was so great to talk with you.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun. And if you have any questions about my daily life, you can always message me on Instagram.
Awesome.